Interview Drive Vernon Carrington, Prophet Gad. Interview by Andrea Williams for IRIDFM. The resistance against slavery, colonial domination and racism have been the struggles of the sons and daughters of Africa in the diaspora since we were brought to the New World. African resistance began in slave ships and continues to the present. The right to basic human rights was not guaranteed after the Act of Emancipation was carried out in 1834, and the possibility that former slaves live as free men and women in dignity and develop human potential was fought tooth and nails against former slaveholders. The list of the martyrs of the black liberation is long, and the struggle for complete freedom and autonomy has been carried out in all ways and shapes. One of the most glorious moments of our struggle for organized labor was the Honorable Marcus Garvey and the UNIA uniting the efforts and the continent of Africa for majority rule, equal rights and justice, and struggles in the diaspora with the now famous words, Africa for Africans, those at home and those in abroad. We must move forward with God, the purpose and a destiny. In 1930 in Ethiopia, Rastafari Markanant was crowned King of Kings and Lord of Lords with the first name of Haile Selassie, and a new chapter in the fight, one with religious connotations, was opened. God was finally real, and the Christian doctrine would be no more the monopoly of white missionaries with headquarters in Rome. The Bible was studied and each reference to Ethiopia took on greater meaning. Ethiopia, being attacked by Italy at the beginning of World War I, galvanized the interest and concern in the struggle of good over evil. During this period the Ethiopian World Federation was founded in the United States, under the guidance of Emperor Haile Selassie I, to rally support for the restoration of the sovereignty of Ethiopia. After the war, and the defeat of Italy, the emperor showed his appreciation by donating land at Shashamane to all African settlers in the West who wanted to return to his homeland. Time, however, was created with different African aspirations. New generations were forming new African societies in the West. Independent nations began to form and a black majority government was imminent. In Jamaica, reference to the Emperor Haile Selassie I continued to shape different movements, such as Nyahbinghi, the Ethiopian National Congress or Boboshanti, and the 12 Tribes of Israel. The 12 Tribes of Israel, founded by the Prophet Gad, has added another dimension to the liberation movement, which includes all races through the teaching of the Bible, and the acceptance of Jesus Christ. Membership is not limited, but inclusive. By identifying as spirit children of Jacob and finding truth for everyone through reading the Bible, a chapter every day, man can find salvation. The divine lineage continues through the Ethiopian monarchy, the seed of David, or as it was said, there will be the scepter from Judah, nor the lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come. And he of the peoples running African Prophet Gad found at his home in Hopewood, and for the first time, agreed to speak publicly on the radio. Can you tell us first about the history of the 12 tribes? I became in 1961 and read the Bible from Genesis to Revelation twice. But I was sent. I was called and sent, resurrected and sent to do this work, and when I read the Bible I see strongly that there is a gap that is there to be filled, and I think I'm one of those who's sent to do the job. Where did the movement? Where were you at that time? In Trenchtown. But I was called when I lived in Outlook Avenue, which is at Rockfort Garden. What took shape? How you convince people of what you were sent to do? Well, I always say that if you read a chapter of the Bible a day, see if what I'm doing is right or wrong. Well, most read the Bible and say that what I am saying is there, so they're part of this. How different tribes are identified. How do you know who it was Simeon and who was Levi and others as well? Yeah, well, there is a record in the Bible. If you see what you see, Reuben represents the eye, and Simeon represent the ears, and so on. It's all there. But there is a part where it says that one of the concubines of Jacob had 2 children with him, and another had 2 more children, and so on. This is how the 12 tribes of Israel are formed. It's all recorded there, you know. I have seen in the Bible most things I do. Very good. A little more about the tribes, and how they identified themselves for a month. Each month, for instance, Reuben represents April, Simeon represents May. I'm glad you said that. I am Simeon laughs. And to June it represents Levi and Judah. How do you make the connection between the tribes and months? House of these Mayo was Simeon. Very good. At this point, Gad will indicate the body parts that correspond to the different tribes. Is why reading this may seem confusing. Well, you see, I mean Reuben, you see, so you know it's April in your ears, that is May, June, July, August, September, October, which is your back. Your penis November, October, November, December, the knee, January, February and March. Very good. The 12 tribes of Israel have been accused of being elitist, catering to the middle class and white. Is that a fair criticism? No, that's not a fair criticism. Because we are not feeding a single class of people. All nations have the same blood, so they are all called, but we know that not everyone will see what we are doing. This conversation is because I know a lot of people are listening now are saying to themselves, but no, we have always thought that only certain people were members of the 12 tribes of Israel, and it is interesting that a group of Rastafarians, when worry most Rastafari are saying, down with the oppressive white, that the 12 tribes of Israel currently include all races. That's right. We read in the Bible that a blood every nation, so we would be wrong to say that it is only one race, would not survive that way. God made us all, so that's what we hold. The 12 tribes of Israel is seen as closer to Christianity than other Rastafarian groups. Is there a fundamental difference in doctrine? Yes, there is a basic difference because we see Christ, who died and rose again, and died for our sins. We see that person. So that's, you know, a different teaching, because not many see this teaching that Christ is the person. I want to remind you that we are talking with the prophet Gad, who is the leader, the head, the founder of the 12 tribes of Israel. We turn now to the doctrine. We recently debated a lot in this program Running African and other programs about the divinity of His Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie related to the return of Jesus Christ. What are your thoughts on this matter? Well, Christ is about to return and sit on the throne of David, so I strongly believe that, you know, Christ will come and sit on the throne of David. I want you said something very important here and can disturb the Rastafarian movement in Jamaica. Christ? You're talking about the return of Christ? Yes, I'm talking about the return of Christ who will sit on the throne of David. Are you making the difference between Jesus Christ and Haile Selassie? Yes, I am making a difference. For Christ is the same yesterday, today and forever. Even His Majesty said He was not saved by the nature of man but by the blood of Jesus Christ. Okay, let's go to the doctrinal principles of the 12 tribes of Israel at the beginning of this program. I told you as head of a Rastafarian organization not wearing dreadlocks. Have specific to the hair principles, diet and reading the Bible. When I read the Bible I see, you know, there is not a hair doctrine. Men know, you know, whose hair is very long, but there is no law that requires you to cut it. As far as I'm concerned, I say that everyone has the right to bring your take as long as they like dreadlocks. And no one should have anything to say about it. I read the Bible and prefer to cut hair. When you cut your hair, comb your hair, and not under my hair, I cut it. Then you have those who wear dreadlocks and others who wear short hair. I even heard on this station IRIDFM, if you do not wear dreadlocks you can not go to Zion. How do you respond to that? There is no doctrine of hair, see, by grace through Christ, so hair can't not save you. What about diet? Diet. Well, it is already registered in the book should you eat and what you should not eat. The man is free to do what you want. But it is specifically recorded in the Bible what to eat, i.e., cloven hoof, and what not to eat, what through the cut. I know members of the 12 tribes of Israel, with whom I have contacted. One difference I found is that members of the 12 tribes of Israel eat meat, for example, whereas most of the Rastafarians are vegetarians. Yeah, well, there are so many things to eat before the flesh. It was vegetables, then, you see, you can eat this meat, for me that you should not eat that meat. But the vegetables were before. And then after Noah and the flood we can eat meat. And separate from what is not to eat. Very good. Many argue, but before we get to that, let's look at the reading of the Bible, because I know that one of your principles is the Bible reading. Tell me about it. While it shows me that even His Majesty gives us an indication that in the Bible, you know that He is glorified in the Bible, and that from childhood He was taught to read the Bible. Now, when I look I see that to understand is completely good to read timely and read for yourself. A chapter a day is preferable. Everyone is still free to read whatever they want to read from the Bible. You've been in this movement for a very long time. You are the founder. Does this mean that you continued reading the Bible daily chapter so far? So you have read several times the mean? Yes, I have read several times, twice, and now I'm at it again. But I have not read much, you know. Many argue that the Bible is not 100% reliable, but reading is actually a guiding principle for you and the 12 tribes of Israel. How do you respond to skeptics who say the Bible is unreliable and you throw fire, so to speak? Every time we show that they curse God, curse the king and the like, I do not expect them to accept certain things, but those who accept, give thanks. On with the rights of way. How does the movement, the 12 tribes of Israel, in relation to births within the movement, the period of adolescence, when the child is a teenager, marriage and death too? Well, if I understand clearly, I know that yes, you are born and after birth have a childhood, adolescence, and when you grow is supposed to get married and then is supposed to help your neighbor, and when death comes, it comes. But right now we are trying to avoid the subject of death. But when it comes, you can't not escape it. For us, we do not die. We only slept, waiting for the resurrection. Is there a specific ceremony in relation at birth? You are baptized or blessed a child within the 12 tribes of Israel as a prophet for you. I do not perform baptisms. He told me not to baptize, so no baptism. They can be baptized when you're born baptism and then not necessarily in a strict rule or something. What about marriage? There any specific? Marriage is a sacred vow, and I know that marriage is right. So if you see a partner and you love, get married. This is with regard to marriage. For me. Okay, moving on. The 12 tribes of Israel at present do not have regular meetings. When can we expect the resumption of these meetings? We've been arguing about it. I think it is time to begin. But we organized for years, and we had a lot of meetings. We took a break for the same lessons over and over again. So we took a break but soon expect the trust to reopen to proceed as before, and then accept the incorporation of some members who want to join. Do you have any idea how soon it will be? Within a couple of months or so? Not yet. I can't not say it. Probably a little more, but not at the moment. How can a person who is interested in being part of the 12 tribes of Israel, how? They have to wait until we announce when we're going to add members, and then can he has heard about the monarchy. The debate about the monarchy is served within the Rastafarian movement to separate movement. Many see Haile Selassie as the final king. How do you see the 12 tribes of Israel? The continuation of the monarchy over the current political climate in Ethiopia. Well, your Majesty will not be the last king, because he's not here now, and we have other kings to come, right? So for me, I strongly believe that the monarchy, when, will be established in due time. So Haile Selassie, contrary to what many people are saying, is not the final king. No, it is not the final king. Well, can you talk a little about succession, then? Succession of your Majesty, you know, already known to Haile Selassie as the heir to the throne, and is not there at the moment, and also appointing GAD. But GAD is there now, so we're looking for the rapid return of GAD to Ethiopia. How does this fit into the teaching not necessarily of the 12 tribes of Israel, but of Rastafarians in general, who, because well, in principle answered about the divinity of Haile Selassie and really made a distinction between Haile Selassie and Jesus Christ? But many Rastafarians do not see anything outside of Haile Selassie, which means that he is the final king to sit on the throne. How do we solve that? Well, I said before, it is not the final king, but I strongly believe that Christ will come to sit on the throne. But His Majesty King is not the end. Have more kings. Because Haile Selassie is there, he is not there, and then GAD is supposed to be installed immediately. Do you see the monarchy being restored in Ethiopia? Because by what is happening in Ethiopia now, we know that Haile Selassie recently tried to go back. Do not know what happened to that. He did not return. But see the restoration in Ethiopia. Now they do not accept the monarchy, but at least there are a number of people seeking look forward, because that is the only person who they believe would be able to return the unit to the Ethiopian people. How do you see happening the restoration of the monarchy? When the time comes, you know, let down, and who is right he will give it to them. Then when the time is up, do not know when, but we are sure it to happen. Is this in accordance with the prophecy? What the monarchy should be restored? Oh yes, oh yes. Do you think the monarchy is a dinosaur in the age of democracy? And what could be more than a constitutional monarchy? Well, I do not understand it completely. Now when Haile Selassie was trying to return the last time, he said he could return only as a constitutional monarch without absolute powers. Do you see something happening other than that? Or see the monarchy restored to the point where the monarchy is once again as it was in the days of Haile Selassie, ruling in Ethiopia? Well, I keep saying again and again that when the time comes, then we are sure we will have a king who feels. It will take some time, but he will sit with certainty. Rumors have been circulating that Prince Zir Jacob is mentally deranged and therefore not suitable for succession. What light can you shed on this issue? Well, Brother GAD, I do not know him as someone who is mentally disturbed. He was here last time and nobody saw it that way. He is working as normal as far as I understand. When I left him in Manchester, but I do not see it as a deranged person. It's really, unbelievable. I should note at this point, I do not know if you want to do this, but Zir Jacob is very close to the 12 tribes of Israel. Oh yes, he is very close. He is with brothers and sisters in Manchester. Is he a member of the 12 tribes of Israel? He is a member of the 12 tribes of Israel, whether Ermias, the nephew Prince Ermias Samha Selassie, will visit Jamaica in August. What is your position within the royal family? I do not have much knowledge about it, but I read that he is one of the Council of the Crown. That's as far as I know. Also I not say what he is doing or saying, but do not have much knowledge about it, but I know he is one of the Council of the Crown. Have you been Ermias contact you? We have not talked and I do not know and he does not know me. Have you been officially informed of his visit in August? Yes. When I say officially I mean I read our document there before that he was planning to come, and now it's time for him to arrive here in August. The future of the monarchy. Is it part of the doctrine of the 12 tribes of Israel that the monarchy must be physically restored? You touched that subject before. That is prophecy, but it is part of your education. Yes, that's part of our teaching that the monarchy should be restored, and the sun and the moon and the stars are there, no one can remove. In the same way, the monarchy should be restored. The 12 tribes of Israel currently have the largest settlement in Shashmanid. Is Ethiopia the final home, and what about the rest of Africa? Just Shashmanid is not the final home. Across Africa, because a king ruled over them. And across Africa, especially Jerusalem. Okay, you say that the whole of Africa, especially Jerusalem, but I'm sure many people are saying but Jerusalem is not Africa. Yes, Jerusalem is Africa. Jerusalem is a part of Africa. It's just that certain things happened and separated. But there is no argument to say that Jerusalem is not part of Africa. We are safe. So when we talk about a New Jerusalem, what are we talking about? When we are talking about a New Jerusalem, we are talking about Jerusalem in Asia Minor. The New Jerusalem is a different thing in all its definition. I would look just a little bit more of that, Jerusalem being the final home, all of Africa, spatially Jerusalem. How is that? As it work? How did that happen? Consider that take a lot of Ethiopians there. If you realize the story shows you that they always said people in Ethiopia were not Jews. All right. But then suddenly there is a change. They are the Jews, who took many of them and took them to Jerusalem. Then we all clear there, that people that is Israel and was in Ethiopia. His ancestors were from Jerusalem and sent back. So here are some of us. Now would be very interesting to those who out of there, and took them there. They say they are the tribe of Dan, so they should be identified as one of the tribes of Dan. The people who left and went to Jerusalem, which took Eritrean flashes, yes. Okay, who should lead the act of repatriation? Because there are many different organizations around the world, African organizations not Africanas, but how they should be involved in helping black people who want to return to Africa. The first thing the OAU should do, presumably, is to gather people and be the voice of help from people who are in the Western Hemisphere, for their return to Africa. I firmly believe that they should be playing a role to help us return home, those who want to return.